The walls are closing in on Meghan Markle, and this time, the damage is coming from inside her own carefully constructed castle. Word on the street suggests that former Archwell staff members have blown the lid off what insiders are calling the most bizarre workplace protocols in Hollywood history. We're not talking about your standard employee handbook here. Sources close to the situation reveal that Meghan has been operating her Montecito mansion like a miniature monarchy, complete with formal announcements, rigid hierarchies, and rules so outrageous they would make actual royals blush. The leaks paint a picture that directly contradicts everything Meghan has publicly claimed about wanting to escape stuffy royal protocols. Remember her tearful Netflix confessions about hating the formality of palace life? About how she just wanted to be authentic and real? Well, rumor has it, those were nothing but crocodile tears, because behind the scenes in California, she's created an even more restrictive environment than anything she experienced at Kensington or Windsor. But here's where this story takes its most shocking turn. Palace insiders whisper that Prince Harry, the man who once rebelled against every royal convention imaginable, has transformed into his wife's primary enforcer. The same Harry who wore Nazi costumes and stripped in Vegas is now reportedly playing protocol police in his own home, ensuring every staff member follows Meghan's elaborate rulebook to the letter. According to reports surfacing from multiple former employees, the couple operates under the delusion that they're simply keeping their royal credentials warm for an inevitable return to the fold. Sources speculate that Harry genuinely believes King Charles will eventually summon them back to working royal status, and when that magical day arrives, Meghan needs to be ready. So every announcement, every formal address, every ridiculous protocol is supposedly preparation for their imagined restoration. The timing of these leaks couldn't be worse for Meghan. She's already dealing with the fallout from that disastrous Harper's Bazaar interview, where her demand to be formally announced was exposed to the world. Netflix is backing away slowly from their partnership. The ARO brand launch crashed and burned before it even began. Hollywood has made it crystal clear they're not interested in what she's selling. And now, just when she needs positive press more than ever, her own former staff are pulling back the curtain on the bizarre reality of working for the Sussexes. Industry insiders suggest that Meghan is absolutely furious about these revelations going public. She's apparently scrambling to identify who's been talking and threatening legal action left and right. But here's the problem with ruling through fear and rigid control. Eventually, people get tired of playing along with your delusions, and when they walk away, they take their stories with them. The question now isn't whether more dirt will emerge, it's how much worse this is going to get before the full truth finally comes out. Let's talk about what might be the single most ridiculous revelation to emerge from these staff leaks. Sources close to the situation reveal that Meghan Markle demands to be formally announced every single time she enters a room in her own house. We're not talking about state dinners or charity galas here. This is her walking into her kitchen, her living room, her office, and every time staff members are expected to alert everyone present that the Duchess of Sussex has arrived. Think about how absolutely bonkers that is for a second. You're sitting at your desk in Montecito, California, trying to manage social media posts or coordinate podcast logistics, and suddenly you have to stop everything and announce that your boss is entering the room. Not Meghan's here, not even Mrs. Markle is coming. No, it has to be the full royal treatment. Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. This isn't speculation or gossip from unreliable sources. Multiple former Archwell employees have corroborated this bizarre protocol, and it perfectly explains what happened during that train wreck Harper's Bazaar interview. Remember how shocked everyone was when the writer casually mentioned that Meghan insisted on being formally announced before their meeting? The writer found it hilarious. The editorial team reportedly thought it was comedy gold, but Meghan wasn't joking. That's genuinely how she expects to be treated, and she was furious when it made it into print despite having final copy approval. Word in royal circles is that Meghan completely missed that detail during her review of the article, and when it went public, she had an absolute meltdown. Palace insiders whisper that she's been trying to convince Harper's Bazaar to issue some kind of correction or clarification, but the magazine is standing by their writer. Why wouldn't they? It's true. And more importantly, it gave them exactly the kind of attention they wanted, even if it wasn't the flattering coverage Meghan had envisioned. But here's what makes this entire situation even more absurd. This is the same woman who sobbed on camera about how uncomfortable she was with royal formality, the same person who claimed she didn't understand why she couldn't just hug William and Catherine like normal people, the same individual who painted herself as this free-spirited California girl trapped in a stuffy British institution. Yet the moment she escaped that so-called prison, she created an even more formal, even more hierarchical, even more ridiculous version of royal protocol in her own home. The hypocrisy is staggering, but what's even more revealing is what it says about Meghan's psychology. She doesn't actually hate formality or protocol. She hates not being at the center of it. She hates being the one who has to show deference rather than receiving it. So she built her own little kingdom where she gets to be the star of the show, the one person everyone must acknowledge and defer to. And Harry, well, reports are surfacing that he's completely bought into this fantasy. He's not just tolerating these demands, he's actively enforcing them. If you thought the formal announcements were bad, Wait until you hear about the naming protocols that allegedly exist inside the Sussex household. According to former staff members who've worked closely with the couple, there's an ironclad rule that absolutely nobody is allowed to address Meghan by her first name, not her assistants, not her publicists, not even people who've worked with her for months or years. The only acceptable forms of address are Duchess or Ma'am, period, end of discussion. Let's pause and really absorb how insane that is. This woman lives in California. She's not a working royal. She has no official role, no constitutional position, no governmental function. She's essentially a private citizen who happens to be married to someone born into a famous family. Yet she's demanding the kind of deference that actual monarchs don't even insist upon in their private spaces. Queen Elizabeth was known for putting staff at ease. King Charles has people who've worked with him for decades, who share genuine rapport with him. But Meghan? Sources speculate she's turned her household into a bizarre performance of royal theater, where everyone must pretend she's still a working member of the Windsor family. What makes this even more fascinating is Harry's role in all of this. Industry insiders suggest that he's not just going along with these protocols, he's actively the one enforcing them. If a staff member slips up and says Meghan, rumor has it that Harry is the one who corrects them. He's the one who reminds everyone about proper forms of address. He's become his wife's primary enforcer, which is a stunning transformation for someone who spent his entire life rebelling against exactly this kind of formality. But why? Why would Harry, of all people, become the protocol police? Well, according to sources close to the couple, it all comes down to his desperate belief that they're going to be called back to royal duty. Palace insiders whisper that Harry has convinced himself that this exile is temporary. He genuinely thinks that at some point, probably sooner rather than later, his father is going to realize he needs them. The monarchy is going to require their star power. The institution will come crawling back. And when that glorious day arrives, Meghan needs to be ready. She can't have spent years being called by her first name like some commoner. She needs to have maintained her Duchess identity, kept that muscle memory alive, ensured that everyone around her still treats her like royalty. Because in Harry's mind, according to reports surfacing from multiple sources, this isn't role-playing or delusion. This is preparation. This is keeping their royal credentials warm. This is making sure that when the call comes, they can slide right back into their positions without missing a beat. The buzz in Hollywood circles is that this belief system has created an incredibly toxic work environment. Staff members are essentially being forced to participate in an elaborate fantasy while dealing with very real professional responsibilities. And increasingly, people are deciding it's just not worth it. Here's where things get truly bizarre. Sources close to the situation reveal that Archie and Lilibet, the Sussex children who are rarely seen by staff members, must also be referred to by their full royal titles. We're talking about kids living in Montecito, California, thousands of miles from Buckingham Palace, who reportedly have minimal contact with their actual royal cousins. Yet every single person who works for their parents has to call them Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. Think about the absurdity of that for a moment. These children aren't growing up in the British system. They're not being raised to understand royal duty or constitutional responsibility. They don't attend royal events. They don't participate in Trooping the Colour or Christmas at Sandringham. By all accounts, they're being kept isolated from the very institution that gives their titles meaning. Yet palace insiders whisper that Meghan and Harry are absolutely rigid about maintaining these formal designations in their household. According to reports surfacing from former employees, some staff members have never actually met Archie and Lilibet in person. Yet they're still expected to refer to them as Prince and Princess in all communications. It's like Meghan and Harry are running a bizarre hybrid operation where their children exist in this strange limbo between American normalcy and British royalty, getting the titles without any of the actual responsibilities or connections that should come with them. Word on the street suggests this is all part of Harry's master plan. He apparently believes that when the family is inevitably welcomed back into the fold, his children need to already be established as working royals in waiting. The titles aren't just courtesy. They're supposedly preparation for future roles that Harry has convinced himself are coming. Sources speculate that he's told Meghan these protocols are essential for maintaining their children's place in the line of succession and ensuring they're taken seriously when the restoration happens. But here's what makes this situation particularly sad. While Harry and Meghan are busy forcing staff to use royal titles for children who live an ocean away from the monarchy, those same children are reportedly missing out on relationships with their cousins. Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis are growing up in London, attending royal events, building memories together. Meanwhile, Archie and Lilibet are in California, surrounded by people who have to call them Prince and Princess, but who barely see them. Industry insiders suggest the staff find this whole arrangement deeply uncomfortable. You're working for a family that's obsessed with maintaining royal protocols while simultaneously keeping their children hidden from the world. Rumor has it that some employees have quietly questioned whether this level of formality is healthy for kids who are supposed to be living normal American lives. But questioning Meghan's choices? That's apparently a fast track to finding yourself on the outside looking in. And Harry, according to sources close to the couple, backs every single one of his wife's decisions without hesitation, no matter how strange they might seem to everyone else else watching. The leaked protocols reveal something even more telling about Meghan's state of mind. Sources close to the situation claim that virtually everything in the Sussex household bears royal ciphers, monograms, and official-looking insignia. We're talking about stationery, notepads, luggage, attaché cases, even office supplies, all of it allegedly decorated with royal symbolism that Meghan has no official right to be using in this capacity. Remember that incident earlier this year when Meghan accidentally sent out HR materials that had a royal cipher on them? At the time, people thought it was a one-off mistake, maybe some old stationery she forgot to throw out from her brief stint as a working royal. But palace insiders whisper that it wasn't a mistake at all. It was a glimpse into how she operates every single day. Former staff members confirm that royal imagery is everywhere in the Archwell offices and the Montecito mansion. It's not occasional, it's systematic. And then there was that infamous bag with the DS monogram that Meghan was photographed carrying. The one that sparked endless debates online about whether she was trying to pass herself off as still being officially royal. Well, according to reports surfacing from multiple former employees, that bag isn't unique. Sources speculate that Meghan has an entire collection of luggage and accessories bearing royal monograms and Duchess insignia. She's apparently spent a fortune having items custom-made with these symbols, all while publicly claiming she's moved on from royal life. The hypocrisy is absolutely breathtaking. This is the woman who told Oprah that the institution stripped her of everything. The same person who claimed the royal family was cold, unwelcoming, and refused to protect her. Yet the moment she got to California, word on the street suggests she immediately started surrounding herself with every possible symbol of the very institution she claims traumatized her. She's clinging to that Duchess title like it's a life raft in the middle of the ocean. But here's the thing that makes this behavior even more pathetic. Industry insiders suggest Meghan knows exactly what she's doing. She understands that without the royal connection, she's just another former cable television actress who couldn't make it in Hollywood. The Duchess title is literally the only thing that makes her remotely interesting to anyone. It's her sole marketable asset in a town that's made it crystal clear they're not interested in her acting ability, her production skills, or her lifestyle brand aspirations. Remember when she tried to rebrand as Meghan, Duchess of Sussex? Crickets. Then she floated the idea of using Spencer as her surname, playing up her connection to Diana. Nobody cared. So now she's back to demanding full formal royal styling because that's all she has left. Palace insiders whisper that she's terrified of becoming irrelevant, and she's right to be scared. Without that Duchess title being constantly reinforced, what exactly is she? A failed actress with a podcast nobody listened to, and a jam brand that never launched. The royal cipher isn't about honoring tradition, it's about desperately holding on to the only thing keeping her name in headlines. Let's talk about the most stunning transformation in this entire saga. Prince Harry, the man who once represented rebellion against stuffy royal traditions, has reportedly become the chief enforcer of Meghan's bizarre household protocols. Sources close to the situation reveal that he's not just passively accepting these rules. He's actively monitoring staff compliance and correcting anyone who steps out of line. Think about how absolutely wild that is. This is the same Harry who wore a Nazi uniform to a costume party. The same guy who got photographed naked in Las Vegas. The same prince who openly complained about royal protocol and famously said he wanted to be normal. Yet according to former Archwell employees, he's now the one who jumps in when someone forgets to announce Meghan's arrival or accidentally calls her by her first name. He's become the very thing he spent his entire youth rebelling against. Word on the street suggests that Harry takes this role incredibly seriously. Palace insiders whisper that he sees himself as protecting Meghan's dignity and maintaining their royal status during what he views as a temporary exile. Former staff members claim that if you make a protocol error, Harry's the one who pulls you aside for a conversation, not aggressively, according to reports surfacing from those who've experienced it, but with this earnest intensity that makes it clear he genuinely believes what he's saying matters. But what's driving this transformation? Industry insiders suggest it all comes down to Harry's desperate need to believe their story has a happy ending. He's reportedly convinced himself that they're going to be called back to royal duty, that King Charles will realize he made a mistake, that the monarchy needs their star power and global appeal. And when that inevitable recall happens, according to sources close to the couple, Harry wants Meghan to be ready. She can't have spent years being treated like a regular person. She needs to have maintained her Duchess identity throughout this entire California chapter. Rumor has it that Harry has sold Meghan on this fantasy completely. He's apparently told her that all the struggles, all the rejection from Hollywood, all the failed business ventures, it's all just temporary noise. The real victory is coming when they return to London in triumph. So every protocol, every formal announcement, every insistence on royal titles, it's not delusional in Harry's mind. According to palace insiders, it's strategic preparation. But here's what makes this situation so tragic. Sources speculate that Harry has become so invested in this fantasy that he can't see the reality everyone else observes clearly. King Charles isn't going to summon them back. William despises what they've done to the family. The institution has moved on without them and is functioning just fine. Yet Harry keeps enforcing these protocols, keeps maintaining these standards, keeps preparing for a restoration that will never come. And Meghan? Well, according to reports from multiple former employees, she's more than happy to let Harry play enforcer while she sits back and enjoys being treated like royalty, without any of the actual responsibilities that should come with it. It's the perfect arrangement for her, and an increasingly sad delusion for him. Let's connect the dots here, because Meghan's desperate clinging to royal protocols isn't happening in a vacuum. Sources close to the situation reveal that every single attempt she's made to establish an identity separate from the Duchess title has crashed and burned spectacularly, and that failure is exactly why these household protocols have become so rigid and non-negotiable. Remember the ARO lifestyle brand that was supposed to be Meghan's big comeback? The one that was going to position her as the next Gwyneth Paltrow? Palace insiders whisper that it was an absolute disaster. The jam samples she sent to influencers became a laughingstock. The trademark applications got blocked left and right, and perhaps most telling, nobody actually wanted to buy what she was selling. The brand died before it ever truly launched, leaving Meghan scrambling for her next move. Then there was the Netflix deal that was supposed to make them Hollywood power players. Word on the street suggests that relationship has deteriorated so badly that the streaming giant is essentially backing away in slow motion. The Polo documentary got brutal analytics. Industry insiders claim Meghan begged them to turn off comments on the trailer because the negativity was overwhelming. And the cooking show? Reports are surfacing that Netflix deliberately left it off their promotional materials and refused to stock any Meghan-related merchandise in their pop-up shops. That's not the treatment you give talent you value. That's how you quietly distance yourself from someone who's become toxic to your brand. According to sources close to the couple, Meghan even reached out to Jeff Bezos trying to secure funding and opportunities through Amazon. Crickets. Hollywood has made its position crystal clear. They're not interested in Meghan the producer, Meghan the lifestyle guru, or Meghan the entrepreneur. The only version of Meghan that generates any attention whatsoever is Meghan the Duchess of Sussex, former royal, woman who married a prince. And that brings us to why these leaked protocols matter so much. Rumor has it that Meghan has finally realized that the Duchess title is literally her only remaining asset. Without it, she's nothing in the entertainment industry. She's a failed actress who had a brief supporting role on a cable show that nobody remembers. She's a lifestyle brand that couldn't sell jam. She's a producer whose content nobody wants to watch. But with that Duchess title, at least she's something. At least she can get meetings, generate headlines, and maintain some level of relevance. Palace insiders whisper that this realization has made Meghan absolutely fanatical about maintaining royal protocols in her household. If she lets people start treating her like a regular person, if she allows that Duchess identity to slip away even in private, then what's she left with? Nothing. So she demands the announcements. She insists on formal titles. She surrounds herself with royal ciphers and monograms, not because she loves tradition or respects the monarchy, but because without that royal connection being constantly reinforced, she disappears entirely. And for someone as desperate for attention and validation as Meghan Markle, invisibility is the ultimate nightmare. The Harper's Bazaar incident wasn't just embarrassing for Meghan. According to sources close to the situation, it represents a turning point in how her staff views her and their willingness to protect her image. Palace insiders whisper that Meghan is absolutely furious about that announcement detail, making it into print, and she's convinced it was a deliberate betrayal rather than an oversight. Here's what allegedly happened behind the scenes. Meghan had final copy approval on that article, which is incredibly rare in journalism, but something her team apparently negotiated hard for. She read through the piece, made her edits, approved what she thought was the final version. But somehow, some way, that infamous line about insisting on being formally announced stayed in the published article. And when it went live, sources speculate that Meghan had an absolute meltdown. Word on the street suggests she immediately contacted Harper's Bazaar demanding to know how this happened. She wanted explanations, corrections, maybe even a retraction. But the magazine stood firm. Industry insiders claimed the editorial team found the whole situation hilarious. This writer, who was relatively inexperienced and clearly chosen because Meghan thought she'd be easy to control, had inadvertently exposed the truth about how the Duchess operates. And Harper's wasn't about to apologize for publishing an accurate account of what happened during the interview. But here's where things get really interesting. According to reports surfacing from former Archwell employees, this incident has created massive tension within Meghan's remaining staff. Some people are reportedly questioning whether they want to keep participating in these elaborate protocols. Others are allegedly worried that if they're the next ones to slip up, they'll face Meghan's wrath. And a few, rumor has it, are quietly documenting everything in case they need to protect themselves later. The buzz in Hollywood circles is that working for Meghan has become increasingly unbearable. Sources close to the situation reveal that the combination of rigid protocols, constant fear of making mistakes, and the growing realization that the Sussex brand is tanking has created a toxic environment. Former staff members describe walking on eggshells constantly, never knowing what minor infraction might trigger a crisis, and Harry's role as enforcer has only made things worse. Palace insiders whisper that his earnest belief in these protocols actually makes them harder to tolerate. If Meghan were the only one pushing this stuff, maybe staff could write it off as quirky celebrity behavior. But having Harry backing her up, treating these rules like they're genuinely important preparations for royal restoration, makes the whole situation feel more cult-like than professional. Industry insiders suggest that more leaks are inevitable. When you create an environment where people feel disrespected, overworked, and forced to participate in someone else's delusions, eventually they start talking. The Harper's Bazaar incident proved that even with final copy approval and careful vetting, the truth has a way of slipping through. And according to sources close to multiple former employees, that writer wasn't being malicious by including the announcement detail. She genuinely found it noteworthy and amusing. She had no idea it would cause such chaos. But that's exactly the problem for Meghan. Her behavior is so bizarre that people can't help but comment on it. Now let's talk about why these household protocols have taken on such urgency recently. Sources close to the situation reveal that Harry and Meghan are seriously considering relocating to Canada, and in their minds this move represents the first step toward their eventual royal restoration. According to palace insiders, they're not viewing their Montecito mansion as a permanent home. They see it as a temporary staging ground where they're keeping their royal credentials alive until the call comes. Word on the street suggests that Harry's upcoming speaking engagement in Toronto is about much more than just collecting a six-figure paycheck. Industry insiders claim he's using this trip to test the waters for a potential permanent move to Canada. Remember, this is the country where they briefly landed after leaving the UK, before Tyler Perry offered them his mansion in California. And according to reports surfacing from sources close to the couple, Harry believes Canadians are more sympathetic to their story than Americans have proven to be. But here's what makes this Canadian obsession so revealing. Rumor has it that Harry views Canada as a stepping stone back to Britain. In his mind, according to palace insiders, if they establish themselves in a Commonwealth nation, it makes their eventual return to royal duties more plausible. They'd still be under the same crown, still connected to the same institutional framework. It's supposedly easier to imagine King Charles summoning them back from Vancouver than from Los Angeles. And this is exactly why the household protocols have become so rigid and non-negotiable. Sources speculate that Harry and Meghan are treating their California home like a practice palace. Every formal announcement, every insisted upon title, every royal cipher on their stationery is supposedly rehearsal for when they're back in the real thing. They're keeping those muscles warm, maintaining that institutional memory, ensuring that when the restoration happens, they can slip back into working royal life without missing a beat. According to industry insiders, Harry has completely sold himself on this narrative. He's reportedly told Meghan that all the Hollywood rejection, all the failed business ventures, all the negative press, it's just noise. The real endgame is returning to London in triumph. And Canada, in his strategic thinking, represents the perfect middle ground. Close enough to Britain to maintain Commonwealth connections, far enough from California to escape the scene of their most public failures. But here's the brutal truth that everyone except Harry and Meghan seems to understand. King Charles isn't going to recall them. William has made it abundantly clear he wants nothing to do with them. The institution has restructured itself to function perfectly well with a slimmed-down working royal family. There's no role waiting for them, no triumphant return being planned, no restoration on the horizon. Yet according to sources close to the couple, Harry remains convinced it's only a matter of time. And Meghan? Well, palace insiders whisper that she's happy to go along with this fantasy as long as it means she gets to keep playing Duchess in the meantime. So they'll move to Canada, maintain their protocols, enforce their titles, and wait for a phone call that will never come. Let's step back and look at what these leaked protocols really tell us about where Harry and Meghan are psychologically. Because this isn't just about etiquette or household management. Sources close to the situation suggest this represents a complete detachment from reality, and it's getting worse rather than better. Think about the staggering contradiction at the heart of their entire narrative. They told the world they were fleeing the oppressive formality of royal life. They painted themselves as victims of an institution that was too rigid, too hierarchical, too obsessed with protocol. Meghan sobbed on camera about how uncomfortable all those rules made her feel. Harry talked endlessly about wanting freedom and authenticity. Yet the moment they got that freedom, palace insiders whisper that they immediately recreated an even more extreme version of everything they claimed to hate. The difference is revealing. Word on the street suggests that Harry and Meghan don't actually object to royal protocol. They object to not being at the very top of the royal hierarchy. They hate having to defer to William and Catherine. They despise being the second-tier royals who have to walk behind others and wait their turn. But being the ones who receive deference? Being the ones everyone else has to accommodate and announce and treat with exaggerated respect? Industry insiders claim they absolutely love that part. So they've built their own little kingdom in California where they get to be the stars, where every room announcement reinforces Meghan's importance, where every formal title reminds staff that they're working for royalty. where every monogram, notepad, and royal cipher serves as a daily affirmation that they're still special, still significant, still somehow connected to the institution they publicly rejected. But here's what makes this situation so deeply sad. According to sources close to multiple former employees, the staff can see what Harry and Meghan apparently cannot. This isn't preparation for royal restoration. This is two people desperately clinging to an identity that no longer fits, if it ever truly did. Rumor has it that watching Harry enforce these protocols is particularly painful because you can see how much he needs to believe in the fantasy. He's invested everything in this narrative that they're going to be called back, that this exile is temporary, that vindication is coming. Palace insiders whisper that the gap between the Sussexes' self-perception and their actual status in the world is widening every single day. They see themselves as royals in waiting. The rest of the world sees them as failed celebrities desperately trading on a connection they voluntarily severed. They think they're maintaining their dignity and status. Everyone else watches them demanding to be announced in their own kitchen and sees delusion bordering on mental health crisis. And here's the thing that should worry Meghan most. These leaks represent just the beginning. Sources speculate that former staff members are tired of being forced to participate in this elaborate fantasy. They're tired of the rigid protocols, the toxic environment, the constant fear of making mistakes. So they're talking, and the more they talk, the clearer the picture becomes of two people who've completely lost touch with reality, living in a Montecito mansion they've convinced themselves is just a temporary stop on the road back to Buckingham Palace.